What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and today I'm just going to discuss about how excited I am about the upcoming Frank Zappa release that was just announced last week. We're in the end of August. It was released about a week ago, prior to the end of August. It's coming out November 3rd. That is the release date. Not the release I thought was coming. Was kind of had my fingers crossed for that Halloween one, being that something was going to be announced, and of course November 3rd is not too far removed from Halloween, so I thought it was going to be a Halloween release. A lot of other things were on my list of things I were hoping to be released. Still looking for an 82 box set. Would love to hear that. And this one makes complete sense. I can't believe this one kind of took me a little bit surprisingly. But it is the Over-nite Sensation 50th Anniversary Super Deluxe Edition. I guess I'd kind of maybe thought they weren't going to do an Over-nite Sensation release since we got the Crux of the Biscuit apostrophe-centric release a while back, and there was no follow-up to that, though we did just get Wazoo recently, and then we also have apostrophe, we got the Roxy stuff, so we're kind of filling in all the spaces chronologically. Maybe that means we get a one-size-fits-all box set in next year or the following next year. But anyways, or maybe the following year, depending on how they view release or when it was recorded. But anyways, this is a fantastic release, or at least what I think it will be. Looking at the set list, looking at what they've done to it, they've kind of taken kind of the Grand Wazoo route in that, or with the Waka Wazoo, and that they're featuring the album, and then they're throwing in some live shows, kind of like what they did with Mother 70, what they did with Mother 71. And while I'm also pretty excited about the stuff that's actually just from Over-nite Sensation, the stuff that's just maybe, session tracks, stuff that didn't make the final cut, there's a couple things on here which are going to feature things that were left off of releases of these songs, which look pretty exciting. But there were two shows from 73 that are on here. That is the thing I am by far the most excited about. Some pretty good tapes in circulation from 73, especially when you get to the Australia run. But to have, we get a March 23rd, 1973 show from Hollywood. Pretty sure this is Sal Marquez's first show. He would stay with the band through Australia. And then we get another show about 2 months later, just under 2 months later, Detroit, Michigan, Cabo Hall, which always treats Frank pretty well, a May 12th, 1973 show, with some very nice complementing set lists, nice early tour, towards the end of tour energy. So really, really excited about that. And then before I actually get into the meat of this, if you have not yet checked it out, they have released the sort of lead-off single, I guess it is, or the bait they're using to entice you to get this, is a version of 50/50. 50/50, what is it? Basic tracks, take 7. Yeah, 50/50, parentheses, basic tracks, take 7. That is out there on the streaming platforms. You can see it on Zappa.com, hear it on Zappa.com. But it is essentially, one, it will hook you. It'll convince you that, oh yeah, I probably need to hear the rest of this. And it's quite similar basically to the live versions of 50/50 from this era, which were instrumentals. There were no vocals. Starts off with some really, really super funky, just crazy George Duke keyboard before the band drops in, and they play the melody of the song, and then we get a bunch of solos. And it's pretty spectacular, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. And if anything, no matter where your opinion of Over-nite Sensation is, the 50/50 track is like, oh yeah, this is a ridiculous group of musicians. And so, I might not like a Dinah-Moe Humm, or I might wish there wasn't a fade-out solo on one of those songs, or I maybe wish that there was a little more rough edges on the release. I can in no way deny the absolute quality of the musicians, and being that we have 2 live shows and then what might be just essentially studio jams or extra tracks, we're in for a really, really good 4-disc treat. So who do we have on this if you're not familiar with this band? So you got George Duke, who had been with them earlier, had played with Zappa earlier, but now was kind of jumping on board and would be around for a while, for a couple tours. Jean-Luc Ponty joining up for the album sessions, would join the band fully, would be in the band, on the touring band. Would get better, I think, in the following like late summer tour as far as what he was doing playing wise, but it is really neat to hear a violin on this. Ralph Humphrey on drums. Sal Marquez is in this band for this. He had joined the band in like March 23rd. I think that was his first show, which is the show we get on here, one of the two. Ian Underwood and Ruth Underwood are on this. Tom Fowler is on bass. And so, yeah, I mean, the band is absolutely fantastic. The rhythm section, the Fowler Humphrey rhythm section, I have to admit, when I first was getting in like decades ago, I think this was one of my least favorite tours as far as the rhythm section, just because this is the beginning where we're getting that Dupree's Paradise intro, where George is just playing the keyboard. He's not like telling stories, or it's not getting super, super funky as it would once Thompson joined the band. We're getting definitely a weirder, more art rocky, I'm not even sure that's the term I want, but the pre-Dupree's jam instrumentation, the rhythm of that is a little much less funky than it would be. But over time, I've come to absolutely love this rhythm section, and I think my opinion of Humphrey has risen considerably. And I'm really excited to get two officially released shows, which I assume the sound is going to even be better than the tapes that I have. So what do we get on here? We got 4 discs. We get disc 1 opens up with Over-nite Sensation. You get that. I'm assuming it's going to be remixed and remastered, or it's gonna pop maybe in a way it hasn't popped before. And we know it's on that. Camarillo Brillo, I'm the Slime, Dirty Love, 50/50, Zombie Wolf, Dinah-Moe Humm, Montana. Quite an album as far as what it did for Frank's like live career. I mean, Camarillo Brillo kind of almost stuck around forever. I'm the Slime was kind of in and out forever. Dirty Love had its moments, populated a bunch of tours. 50/50, the one thing that kind of didn't make it past 73, unfortunately. Zombie Wolf, sadly, didn't get played as much as it should have, but reappeared in the 80s and was an awesome addition. Dinah-Moe Humm. And then Montana, which just became a staple for almost ever. So it really, Frank played these songs a lot. Frank obviously liked these songs. The crowd obviously liked the songs. The audience liked these songs. So it is a fantastic album, regardless of what you might think of Dinah-Moe Humm and its inclusion on it. And then so we start off with that on disc 1, and then we get some bonus session masters. We get Wonderful Wino, which had been floating around for quite a while before it finally popped up on Zoodalures. Inca Roads. This is a different version. I think this is the one, right? I think this is the one where Sal Marquez's vocals have been found and possibly his trumpet solo. So maybe we get some Marquez on this. The Marquez version as performed in like the Australian leg of the tour was him doing the Cocktail Lounge sort of intro with the lyrics, and it is a knock it out of the ballpark fantastic. I don't know if that's what this is. I think the reason for releasing this version, even though it is, I think the same one released on last episodes, was apparently Sal Marquez's vocals and trumpet were discovered after they had been missing. So to think that we are getting a Sal Marquez version of Inca Roads is a great thing. If anybody knows anything else. Yeah, it just says here, and this is on the Zappa.com, Inca Roads, I want to say there was something about they found, and a newly mixed Inca Roads, which was mixed in 2023 from the 16-track master after Sal Marquez's vocals and trumpet tracks were rediscovered. So, yeah, that's awesome. I hope that's what that is, because he's absolutely knocking it out of the ballpark fantastic. We get a Redunzo mix, which I think has a guitar solo from Frank that wasn't in the release version we got. We get a For the Young Sophisticate, pretty interesting. An I'm the Slime single version, and a Montana single edit with intro. And we're still on the first disc. I guess Overnight's Sensation was a short album. We get an Inca Roads, another mix, a Redunzel Take Two, and an Echidna's Arf of You called X Forts. And Echidna's was played. No, it was not played, I don't think. If it was played in 73, I've never heard a version of it. I know Don't You Ever Wash That Thing was played, and that we'll actually get to that on another disc. So disc 1, 16 tracks, and 7 of which is the initial album. CD 2, we're continuing on with the bonus Vault Sensations. We get an alternate mix of Camarillo Brillo, and I'm the Slime demo called Face Down, I'm the Slime basic track outtake, Dirty Love session rehearsal, Dirty Love with quad guitar, 50/50 the pipe organ intro improvisations, which could be fun, the 50/50 track Take 7, which you can hear on streaming, which is fantastic, a Dinah-Moe Humm session rehearsal, which could be fantastic. I don't know which parts they're rehearsing. I'm hoping it's not the music. I'm actually hoping it's the sort of breakdown in the middle, because this could be fantastic, especially if we just get to hear them jam that middle section. Ooh, a Dinah-Moe Humm alternate mix, and then a Montana alternate mix. And this is one thing that always bothers me about their sequencing, but maybe it's what they have to do, is the beginning of the show from March 23, 1973 are the final 3 tracks on disc 2. If I have a complaint, can we find a way to start the shows off track 1 and then maybe carry over? I don't know. Maybe not. But anyways, we got a Montana, goes into the Dupree's Paradise intro, which is George just playing. I don't even think there's an intro. I think Montana ends typically in 73, and then George just starts playing. Frank eventually conducts people through stuff. There's some sort of rhythm section comes in. It's definitely not a funk jam like it would be by 74, but there's usually some kind of weird, crazy, improvised jam. Then we go into Dupree's Paradise proper, which is just fantastic. Some of my favorite guitar playing in 73 is Frank Zappa's sort of Dupree's Paradise exploratory expeditions. CD3 continues the March 23rd show, and that's the entirety of CD3 is the rest of the show. We get a Cosmic Debris. We get the dynamic Sal Marquez in quotations, which means it's just talking, I'm pretty sure. We get a Big Swifty, which I'm assuming is going to contain a really good Marquez trumpet solo. I'm super excited about hearing this Big Swifty. We get Frank talking, the successor to Willie the Pimp. Apparently, the Curse of the Zomboids, a.k.a. I'm the Slime, is the successor to Willie the Pimp. I do remember I did not go back and listen to 73 versions of I'm the Slime, but I remember Frank felt like he hadn't quite figured out the way he wanted to deliver the lyrics. I figure his tone was wrong. It just seemed like whatever that weird sort of commentary attitude he takes on the official version or in all later versions seemed to be he was still searching for it in 73. I don't know if that's what's going to play out on this March 23rd show, but I do remember it was a pretty interesting vocal performance. Don't You Ever Wash That Thing, which definitely had a looser, jazzier sort of wazoo feel on this tour than it would eventually have by 74, when it had just become this incredibly tight monster. I think my memory of it is it's more of a looser thing with like a main theme and then some solos, and it definitely wasn't sort of the tight monster that it would be even by Roxy and elsewhere. Yeah, and it's a lot busier, some additional horn parts in it, but still then we do get a bunch of solos, so always for that one, especially when you look at who's in this band. Pretty sure that's the way this one's going to play out. Then we get FZ in the percussion section. This, from what I'm going to guess that this followed immediately after the Don't You Ever Wash That Thing, and that if I had a tape, the Don't You Ever Wash That Thing and the FC percussion section would have been one track. I would have just credited the drum percussion section as pretty much essentially the ending of Don't You Ever Wash That Thing. Again, have not heard the 23rd show, but I have a feeling it's sort of a post, it's the end of Don't You Ever Wash That Thing. I might be wrong on that. And then we got Palladium Jam Part 1 and Palladium Jam Part 2, which I'm going to imagine is something kind of like what Frank did with the Wazoo stuff or what the ZFT did, where they took something like Little Dots, and just because the jam was so incredibly different, they split it into separate parts. Maybe, I don't know. But it's interesting that that's divided up. I'm kind of feeling like it might just be one jam just has two completely different vibes. But that's how the show closes out. That's the end of that March 23rd show. Not really sure if it's a complete show. They probably say that somewhere on here, but it's pretty long and runs about the same length of those shows. Yeah, I don't think it says anything about them being incomplete, so I'm going to assume they're both complete shows. Anyways, really excited about that. But then we get CD4, one show in its entirety. This is the May 12th, 73 show. Band intros, we get that big sort of medley of songs, Exercise 4, Dog Breath Variations, Uncle Meat, into 50-50. 50-50 was kind of the instrumental jam that capped off this sequence of songs, which got a lot of play on this tour. We get the Inca Roads. I don't think Marquez is doing the intro by this point. I don't think that started until September or until Australia. I hope I'm wrong. I don't have this show on tape. I think it is still just an instrumental by this point. But if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments because I will be even more excited about this release. Frank introduces the Don't Eat the Yellow Snow medley. That's a separate track. Then we get Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, Nana Grubs It, San Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast, Father Oblivion, the San Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast reprise, which essentially was the margarine part, in which he spells out margarine. M is for Mahavishnu, which was a band I saw. A, and he spells it Maha-ja-reen. He doesn't spell it margarine. There's usually some jokes in there that he likes to tell. I'm pretty sure that's what the reprise is, because they would go back in a little bit of St. Alfonso's, and then they would do the margarine part. Margarine. Then after margarine, Frank would say, "Join the march and eat my starch." And they would go into Farther Oblivion, starting with the sort of Gregory Peccary, Swifty, Big Swifty, Stenopool section. And so there is a track called Join the March. I am assuming that is Farther Oblivion, which generally followed the Don't Eat This Yellow Snow Suite, which is interesting because you have Father Oblivion and then Farther Oblivion. So I'm assuming Join the March is Father Oblivion, which is weird that they called it Join the March. Maybe they don't have the whole thing on tape. Maybe it edited out. I don't know. Then we get a Cosmic Debris. And then for what I'm assuming is the encore, we get the medley of King Kong, Chunga's Revenge, Son of Mr. Green Jeans. You get a Blu-ray audio of Over-nite Sensation. And yeah, just a fantastic release, people. Like, I don't know why this would be bad. I'm trying to think of a reason. From what we know by that 50-50 release that's been out there on streaming radio, the sound of this is fantastic. We know the original album sounds pretty fantastic. I'm going to assume maybe this sounds better. Those live things, those have to be fantastic. I'm assuming, apparently Frank liked to tape those Detroit shows, so I'm assuming that Detroit show tape sounds good. Hollywood Palladium, it's pretty much his home turf. Don't know why that doesn't sound incredible. So yeah, this is an exciting release, people. I'm going to get it in the mail one day when it gets released. But yeah, I'm excited. But that's all I got to say. Like, kind of surprised me. I was not expecting an Over-nite Sensation 50th box release. But yeah, I think it's well-deserved. And I do think this is one that appeals more to the masses just because it is Over-nite Sensation. And I think of maybe some people who might not invest in a 4-CD Frank Zappa box set, invest in this one. You know you're guaranteed a hit with the Over-nite Sensation, and I can't see why you wouldn't enjoy the live stuff because the band is fantastic. And unless the sound is bad, I can't imagine that those two shows are anything but absolutely fantastic. So I'm all in on this one. It gets 2 thumbs up for me, and I haven't even heard it yet, but I'm confident on this one. I'm excited. So yeah, that's all I got. Let me know your thoughts. Put them in the comments. Subscribe, like, share. And if you have not heard that 50-50, go to Zappa.com and listen to it there, or go to your local streaming media. Zappa.com put it on the streaming media, so they're obviously okay with you checking it out. So go check it out there, people. But yeah, I'm excited about this release. I am excited about this release. Peace, y'all. Talk to you later.